This is PJNET.TV, and this is my perspective and comments. In this video segment of My Perspective and Comments, we cover politics, society here and abroad, and the events of the day that are shaping our nation. PJNET.TV, my perspective and comment, coming to you with a worldview, one nation under God. Hello, this is my perspective and comments. And folks, tonight I usually, over the last several months, I've started out with talking about COVID and some updates. But over these last 3 days, I think COVID's gone, because I haven't heard too much about the COVID-19 or the China virus or the Wuhan virus. All I've been hearing about is election 2020 and what has been taking place in our nation right now. And you've been hearing a lot about the battleground states and what's been going on there. We had the election on Tuesday, and a lot has been happening over these last 3 days. Let's start out here right now with here on PJNET.TV. We're talking and discussing and watching some of the results that were coming in. And as we were winding down for the evening, I'm looking at the momentum that President Trump seemed to be having, and state after state. And it was kind of a little bit head-scratching to see some of these states that were absolutely with 90% of coming in for, say, a state like Florida, and nobody's calling it for President Trump. And we saw a lot of that that took place Tuesday night. Also, as we were leaving the PJNet.TV chat room, there were some questions. We saw that the balloting count was stopped, like Virginia. Virginia, all of a sudden, they stopped counting ballots, and people are wondering what's going on here. But, I felt pretty good leaving and calling it a night, because there seemed to be momentum, and some of the forecasts of some of these states, President Trump was looking very well in these battleground states. Well, get up in the morning, and a lot took place between 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, where a lot of things changed. And that's what we've been dealing with right now. One of the areas too that was very concerning, especially when you're looking at a so-called conservative-leaning news organization, Fox News, and I think they fell into the CNN, MSNBC camp. Calling Virginia way before there was any real indication that that Joe Biden was going to win that state. And a lot of people were saying, "What's going on here?" And then they had to a lot of these organizations had to retract it, because it was just an irresponsibility. Or irresponsible, excuse me, for some of the reporting and how they were holding on to obvious states that President Trump won, and outright with 50% of the percentage of reporting coming in, and they're calling it for this state and that state. So very concerning what's been taking place. And now what you've probably been hearing in the news, if you've been watching any of this, is that a lot of concern of ballots showing up. And these ballots that are showing up, like in Wisconsin or in Michigan, Pennsylvania, ballots 25 in groups of 25, 30, 40,000, and every single one is voting in one direction. And people are saying, wait a minute, this is statistically, this wouldn't happen, because people make mistakes in filling out their ballots, and none of that showed up. And no votes, all for Biden, none for President Trump. So things was really starting to smell. And that's what we've been seeing right now. And right now we have this slow roll of, a group of ballots showing up here and a group of ballots showing up there, and they're all moving in one direction. But I'm encouraged right now, and I'm all for Trump fighting this. Let's put it in the courts, and let's really ascertain what is going on here. I have one theory, and I just wanted to posit this right now. What has been taking place over these last 3+ years? We had Russian collusion. We had a total investigation from the Mueller investigation that spent millions upon millions of dollars going after President Trump and and make him guilty for so-called collusion with the Russians, only to find out after all the money that's spent, Mueller's report comes back and there's no collusion. And then we went into the Ukraine and how they went after President Trump and tried to impeach him, only to find out that no, nothing to be seen here. And now we find out that President Trump did have some concerns with Ukraine when we start looking at Hunter Biden and potential connection with Joe Biden and the relations that they had with Ukraine, and why Hunter Biden was on, making all this kind of money with Ukraine and China. So the whole investigation and impeachment going against President Trump, only to find out that he did have some real concerns because of the potential corruption that was taking place, or the pay to play with Hunter Biden. So we've seen a track and the investigation of President Trump and the FBI. Comey, McCabe, Strzok, and the many other players that definitely look like there was a vengeance to go after President Trump and to take him down. A coordinated effort from some of these agencies, Brenner and that area in the CIA. So a coordinated effort to go after this president from the get-go, when he stepped on that elevator and announced that he was running for president. And there's been a concerted effort to take him down. Now, when you look at that track record for the last 3 years, and now you see what has taken place here. Now, yes, I'm in President Trump's corner. Yes, we need to get this in the courts because there are some irregularities that really don't look good. And we have O'Keefe there with Project Veritas. It's already been talking about some of the maybe shenanigans that's been taking place in the post office with these ballots, these mail-in ballots. So this is going to play out, and at this point, Joe Biden is, I think he's at 264 right now, trying to make his way to 270. But these lawsuits have basically hit the brakes in some of these states. So we'll see how this all plays out, but it really is concerning to see how you keep hearing things about the deep state and the swamp, and is it a real thing or not? And over these last 3 years of what they've tried to do with this president, you can't help but say, wait a minute, that there definitely seems to be a coordination from the political class and what we see happening in the media. The daily barrage that we've seen from this liberal media, and it's all slanted in one direction to, no matter what President Trump has said, there's something wrong with it, or he's wrong, or President Trump says hi, the media says low. I mean, it's been that obvious. So this is going to play out, and we may not have an answer to who is the president of the United States for maybe some time now. But I really am in President Trump's corner to take this all the way to the Supreme Court if need be, because there's enough evidence of shenanigans that's taken place with these ballots, and especially when you start talking about, it would be one thing if it was a mixed bag of ballots pointing to some for President Trump, some for Biden and the independent. But when it's all totally, every single ballot's for one side, it puts some red flags up, and I think that's what we've been seeing taking place. And when we start looking at the election, as I've said, that's been basically all that we've been seeing 24/7. The other concern is we do have other parts of the government that should be stepping in, like I haven't heard anything from Attorney General Bill Barr, for him to step in and to maybe put some plans together on investigating some situations. I've heard that in some of these polling places where they've filed a complaint and a request that these poll watchers could actually get access to in some of these states, and they've been barred from going into some of these states. I think Michigan was one. Pennsylvania, I think, is another one where they've been the people that should have authorization to be able to go and observe the ballots and how they're counting these ballots. They should be able to go in, and some of these states are actually blocking and saying, no, you can't come in. So there are some things in the court right now that they're trying to work through to make sure that everything is above board and there's transparency. And right now, that's the other concern, is there doesn't seem to be true transparency in these states. And again, the battleground states, and when we start thinking about those states, who are they run by? And we're talking about Democrat-run states, and the concern around getting access and transparency, and how these numbers seem to be all swaying in one direction. So a lot has been playing out here, folks, and it could be the end of this week. We might hear something, or it could be the end of the next week, or we could be running into weeks upon weeks at this point. And it's really up in the air right now. President Trump is really, he's taken a lot of shots from the swamp, the political class, and the media. And again, we've talked about some of his accomplishments. And if he's only a one-term president, what accomplishments? Opening up Israel, opening up the embassy in Jerusalem, and also the normalization of these Arab nations, United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Sudan, and more are coming on board because President Trump has been a catalyst for peace and normalization of relations there in the Middle East. The economic success that we've had under President Trump over these last 3 years, record-breaking when it came to the unemployment rate and the opportunities for minorities, blacks, Hispanics, women, young people in the workforce, and the economy growing in record numbers that we've seen. And then with right now, I don't even think there would be a question who would be president of the United States right now if this past spring we didn't see the COVID. And I think that really changed everything. And, some would say that, and you heard that on the campaign trail, how President Trump or the administration responded to COVID. You heard that from Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. But I would say one thing right now. I think if we look back at what the administration, President Trump, I think that if there's any area that we might look at and say, that might have been a mistake, was keeping Anthony Fauci and Deborah Birx on that committee, that COVID committee. I think that their messaging and their push for the lockdowns and the run and hide and really more of a fear-mongers than anything else, rather than the message that we've been seeing over the last 2 or 3 months is, President Trump saying we need to get our nation back and get our lives back, and to open up our nation and get some normalcy back. And I think that one of the great moves was, I think 2 months ago now, 2.5 months ago, that Dr. Scott Atlas came on board and really was looking definitely when it came to having a game plan and realizing that this virus, we do the appropriate things like protecting the vulnerable, protecting those with pre-existing conditions, but letting everyone else live a normal life and get back to normalcy, was where Scott Atlas was putting putting the direction for dealing with COVID-19. And also, Dr. Scott Atlas was not a fearmonger. It was just we can get through this 99.5 to 0.9. Do not many don't even show asymptomatic. They're not showing symptoms, and the fatality is that low. So, but if that message, if they had that type of leadership there in the on the medical end. And there were many doctors that had been bringing that same message, and a lot in the social media realm, Twitter and Facebook. If any of these doctors came out and says, no, we don't need to lock our nation down, they were shadow banning or outright canceling their accounts, because they didn't want to hear that narrative. The liberal media and these tech companies, Facebook, Twitter, they weren't going to allow any dissenting information when it came to COVID-19. So a lot, that aspect of that played out here over these last several months, I think was a positive drag for President Trump. But I mean, so many positives when you think of our president. When it came to I think he was the first president to actually speak at the Right to Life march in D.C. A pro-life president. And I think we saw over these last 2 or 3 months, and as President Trump was getting out to these rallies, the connection that he had with the people. And that was the other thing, they've thrown everything at President Trump to try and take him out. But what he's messaged very strongly, in the connection where the people realized that he was fighting. He wasn't just fighting against the liberal elites, but he was also fighting for the American people. And there was a realization that what was happening to President Trump ultimately was directed at all of us. And that reality has become quite clear to all those that have been supporting President Trump, is that it wasn't. I mean, they were coming after him, but they were also really the arrows were at us too, and he was standing up against that onslaught. And the people realized that, hey, if President Trump isn't there to fight for us, then we're on our own. And as we've seen in the streets over the last several months, with the anarchy and the devastation, the burning, the looting and hurting people, a lot of the police have said, you are on your own. Because it's out of control. And that was another area where President Trump has been pushing to say this has to stop. And I guarantee a second term for President Trump, and he will deal with the anarchy and the lawlessness that's been taking place in the streets. So I would say right now, folks, President Trump has a tremendous uphill climb to beat back this effort. And I've heard a lot of people saying this is a coup. What has been taking place over the last 3 years, the constant trying to take this president down for any reason. And one issue after another gets knocked down and says, this isn't true. No, you can't. The courts step in. No. They go through a trial. No. They find nothing. And the American people see what's been taking place. The effort by the political class and those that are part of that swamp, and some of those that are in higher places right now have made that coordinated effort to try and take this president down, no matter in whatever the means. they've tried to take him down using any excuse possible. And it's seen. People know. The people that are supporting President Trump, they see it. They've seen this onslaught of assault against President Trump. But he's been strong. He's been hanging in there, and I believe that he's going to take this, all the way to the Supreme Court. I support him in this. He might not prevail, but I mean, really, what I've been seeing with the results of what took place over this November 3rd, this election day, was very, at the bare minimum, suspicious. And I would say there's definitely some shenanigans that definitely took place when it came to some of these states and the reporting and the balloting and the ballots that are showing up very surprisingly where they're needed. And it's concerning. But it's in the courts right now. All eyes, and President Trump is mounting a defense and an inquiry and getting the right people in place to fight this. And I'm there with him and support him in that effort. Again, as I mentioned, it's almost as if COVID's gone, but. Looking back at what's been taking place, we are seeing, especially up here in New York, that there are some more infections. The infection rates are going up. But again, infections are up, fatalities and deaths due to COVID are no. There has not been an issue in that area. Also, I just want to also touch a little bit bases here on a Biden-Harris administration should this take place. He's already been talking about potentially Elizabeth Warren or Bernie Sanders to have a place in the cabinet, and maybe even Andy Cuomo to pull him up out of the governorship and pull him into a cabinet spot. So a lot of these far left socialists / communists maybe Biden will be embracing. Now, Biden could pull a surprise and say, well, Bernie, I'm a president for everyone, and we just can't go that far left position that you're at. That this nation isn't a socialist, but all indications are Joe Biden really doesn't have the strength to go up against Bernie Sanders or even Elizabeth Warren. So I think if they demand a place on his cabinet, I'm not sure if he's gonna be the leader to push back and lead. I think that there are people that will be pulling the strings here for Joe. It should he win. I'm hoping that the effort, Herculean effort that President Trump is going to put forth here pays dividends, and he's able to beat back this what I call almost travesty of what we've seen taking place over these last days. But more to, time will tell here. But already we know some of the players that Joe Biden has talked should there be a Biden-Harris administration. So we'll be keeping an eye on this. A lot's going to be happening over these days. The court fight that will be taking place, and some of these states that will finally so-called certify their elections, and we'll see if President Trump makes some gains on taking some states. I think Pennsylvania, he was way up in front, but a lot of that lead has been whittled away. So we'll see what happens in that area. And again, we could feel maybe discouraged at what's been taking place, but don't be. We're Americans. We've had presidents come and presidents go. When you look around at our nation and what we've been seeing with the moral decay that's been surrounding us, just the areas of people wanting to go their own way and to really go after the church and to fight against any morality or any right or wrong, and the absolutes. They don't want to hear that. That they want the gray area. They want to be able to do whatever they want to do without any consequences or without any guilt. They want to be able to do what they want to do, and you go along with it. And there's definitely been a battle there. We also see in some of our libraries, in our schools, that you can have the libraries and the transgender story hour, and no one has really been standing up and saying no, we don't want this in our libraries. We have men who are saying I'm a woman, and they're going into athletics, and they're competing against the women and winning all these awards, and that's okay. And somehow, if you say, "Wait a minute, this is unfair. You can't do that," and somehow you're a transphobia, and they come against you. So we see a lot of things that are happening right now in our nation, and we want to lift our nation up. We see a lot of areas right now where there needs to be a realization and a turning to God, and we want to pray for those that are blinded, for those that are lost, and that it's only unless our nation turns to God, we're going to continue to see a slide. And we need to fervently pray for our nation, that God continues to keep His hand of blessing upon this nation. But we're seeing a lot of anger and a lot of turning away from God, and fighting that, and fighting anything that has to do with the Lord, and turning back to Him. So keep our nation in prayer. A lot's been happening. A lot's going to be happening over these last few days here. In November is going to be, I think, a busy month, and we're going to see a lot that's going to be playing out here when it comes to our nation, when it comes to the decision on who will be our next president of the United States. But again, keeping knowing who's on the throne, keeping our eyes on Him. That's what we need to continue to do. Those of you that know the truth, know whose hand you're in, and who's overall in this world, the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. Well, so much has gone on over these last weeks, and especially this culminating in this week. And when you look around, we just are in the midst of uncertainty, in the midst of the anarchy that we've seen in the streets over the last 6-7 months. And when you look to the left or to the right, you're seeing constant uncertainty and upheaval around us in this nation, and we're seeing it also in the world. And it can be a trying time. It can be this uncertainty can weigh on us. But what I'd like us to take a look and to really focus on and consider where we need to put our thoughts, where we need to place our eyes in all that we're seeing happening around us. And I'd like us to take a look at a scripture in Psalms chapter 46, verses 10 and 11. That's Psalms verse 46, verses 10 and 11. Verse 10. Be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in the earth. Verse 11. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our refuge, Selah. So this scripture, when you look at it's an encouragement. And when you look at where God is, we need to realize He's on the throne. We can praise the King of Kings and Lord of Lords, and to realize that He's overall. He is around this earth. The nations, this globe, is in His hands. And what is taking place in this nation and around the world, He's overall. We can take comfort in that. But I'd like us to take a look here in verse 10. Be still and know. And that with all the things that are going on around us, we could be wrapped up in all that's happening and be emotionally swept up into what we're seeing around us. But step back, be still, listen to the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. Listen to God speaking to us. We can be calm when we know who's on the throne, when we know that this nation, this world, God is overall and He's in control. So at this time, when we're seeing this unrest, uncertainty all around us, step back and ask God, spend time in His Word, and ask God, pray for our nation. We don't have the answers, but the King of Kings and Lord of Lords does. Our Heavenly Father, He has the answers, and He is a just God. So we put these concerns that might be around us, that might be weighing us down right now when we look around at all that's happening, but realize that God is to be exalted, realizing that no matter what comes our way, we can look to God and ask God to help us. He is our refuge. And that in verse 11, I want to read that again. Verse 11, the Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our refuge. So, our Lord is with us. We're not caught by surprise, and God isn't caught by surprise with what we're seeing right now in our nation and around the world. But realize that God is our refuge. We need to, put all these circumstances that might be weighing on us and put it in God's hands. And we can step back and realize that He's on the throne and it's His strength. And that's who we need to look to. We could get all wrapped up and be depressed and of circumstances that's around us that's out of our control. But God isn't caught by surprise, and we need to put and cast our burdens on Him. He will sustain us. And realizing that, let's be still and spend time at His feet, asking Him to help us, asking Him to just to make clear to us and where He's at, where the Lord is, because we know where He's at. He's on the throne, and we can be comforted in that. No matter what's going on, we don't know. We don't know what's going to be taking place over these next weeks to come with all that we've been seeing leading up over these last months. But God is on the throne, and He knows. So we need to cast our cares upon Him. He will sustain us. He is our refuge. And we need to take comfort in that, folks, is that God is on the throne and He's not caught by surprise. So let us comfort ourselves knowing where God is. He's on the throne, and we can find strength and refuge and comfort in Him. And that's my perspective and comments.